What's up, Sagebrush? Thanks for joining us today. Hope you're having a great Thursday morning. We are here. We're going to be bringing you a weekly feature featuring Kids Planet and a little bit of remix with our student program because we're sure you have a bunch of questions about probably one of the most exciting pieces of news that we've had, at least in the last 6 months, and that we are returning to live services at our physical locations. So we've brought in Chris Dreier, who's one of our executive pastors who helps oversee the teams that lead Kids Planet and Remix amongst about, 100 other jobs that you have here at the church. 99 other jobs. So we want to learn a little bit about Chris, and then we want to answer some of your most frequently asked questions about what it looks like to come back to live services here at all of our locations. So feel free to participate in the comments, ask some of the questions. If we don't get to them, we'll be sure to send out emails and future communications with those as well. So first, Chris, can you say hi to everybody and then answer this question? What's your favorite outdoor activity?
I have a lot.
Okay.
I would say my favorite is riding motorcycles.
Okay.
I've been riding since I was a kid and love it. And it's just my version of horseback.
Okay.
I don't want to feed a horse.
It's like that. It's like an iron horse, right?
It is an iron horse. It absolutely is, and it's a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. Oh, and this is pretty good weather we've been having lately.
It's gorgeous.
It's awesome. So speaking of that, I bet you probably go all around the state and the area. What would you say is one of New Mexico's kind of hidden treasures that you and your family like to do in the state?
Well, we decided a while ago, rather than a lot of big vacations, we would just get a little RV trailer. So we take that thing everywhere and go up to Colorado, different places. There is an RV resort in Angel Fire that's just gorgeous, and man, it's green and lush, and it's a great place to take pets. So that's kind of our spot. If we could go anywhere, that would be the place we'd go.
And how often you say you get a chance to get up there?
3 or 4 times a year if we can.
Nice.
And we'll just stay for a night or two, and
yeah,
it's beautiful.
All weather, or you try to stay in the?
Yeah, don't usually go between probably November and February. Just gets a little cold in an RV, even with blankets and heaters.
All right. Yeah. Well, that's probably smart. If you're a camper, if you like camping, if you like getting away, let us know in the comments where are a couple of great spots, maybe some hidden treasures in the state, or maybe the Four Corners area in Texas that you like to go camping. That way we can share for other fellow outdoor enthusiasts. And if you like to ride your motorcycle, let Chris know where you like to ride. That way he can, blaze a couple new trails. Maybe explore.
Please.
So let's get down to it. And I know you guys have a lot of questions. We've got some we're going to answer, and you can go ahead and enter them in the comments as we go. But I want to know, Chris, are you really excited to resume these live services at our campus?
I absolutely am. In fact, you and I were kind of talking earlier about how in the early church, they had this thing that everybody wanted, and it was, they call it koinonia in the Greek, but it meant community, this intimate community. And I understand, Todd said it great, the church has never been closed because we are the church, and wherever we go, we take Christ in us, and we are able to share the gospel. But something very, very special when the body of Christ comes together and corporately worships, just engages with each other, builds friendships. I have missed it desperately. My journey has been 20 plus years in ministry,
Sure.
And this has been absolutely the weirdest season I've ever been in.
Oh yeah, for sure. These last 6 months have just been really turning everything we do on its head. And I think you'd admit too, online groups are great, being able to watch online services are great, and really expanding to what are the limitations that we have, and let's make the best out of all of those, right?
Absolutely.
So we're not taking anything away from that, but I think that, just like you're saying, there's something special about being able to meet with people in person, to sing together. If that's where you're at too, let us know, what are you excited about returning to live services eventually? No matter where you are. If this is not something you're comfortable with yet, that's perfectly fine. We're going to continue online, but let us know, what are you most excited about when we return to live services? Okay, let's get to it. Kids and students.
Yes.
We've seen that there's been some significant shifts to serve families during these stay-at-home orders. Can you tell us a little bit about what we've done as a church to help move our experiences in the stay-at-home season?
Absolutely. Well, as soon as the change hit and we knew that we had to close in-person locations, we knew that we needed to do something pretty quick for kids to keep them engaged as well as students. And so we kind of arranged a program team, and then we began to meet together and put together online content that we could show. And so we have quite a couple of months under our belt, and we have had online worship service videos that have been available. We've done social media with Kids Planet. We've had Kids Planet age-related groups where you could join a group and get to know kind of things within your particular Kids Planet sub-ministry, if you will. So a little bit of everything. We've had family devotions that we put up.
Sure.
Just trying to stay connected. One of the big things that we've done is we've done lots of phone calls and just texts and personal connections with kids and with our team members, just to try to make sure they don't feel disconnected in a time where it feels really disconnected.
Yeah, I know. I've got a 7-year-old and 8-year-old at home, and we've received postcards, and we've had people calling us, and it's just so to see my kids grab the postcard and read what someone has handwritten to them has just been really amazing. Do you have any idea how many phone calls that your team's made?
We at one point lost track, but we had been over 20,000 calls as a church. Just a lot of phone calls.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was
still going.
That was the last check. So we're probably up way over that. So if you've received a phone call or a letter or something like that, let us know. Let us know if you was that beneficial to your family. Let us know there. So you mentioned a couple of things. We've got the Kids Planet online experience, Remix online experience. You can find those on our app. You can find those on YouTube. I think we're posting links in the comments as well.
Yes.
And then get connected to Kids Planet on Facebook. We've got a page. We've also got an Instagram account that we started over the course of the COVID season. And then we also have Kids Planet grade-specific groups. So that way you can connect with your Seaside Surf and your Wired and Adventure Island.
Yes.
So you can connect with those people. Exactly. In addition to, we talked a little bit about Remix.
Yes.
Has online experience.
Very similar. I mean, we did the same thing. I think we started our Remix service 1 week after we had started our very first kids, and tried to figure out, man, how can we create something that's short but impactful? How can we have fun? How can we encourage some campus versus campus interaction and games and just things that would keep a kid engaged when they're not able to come to our live experience. And so, Remix online services, we've had daily devotions available for Remix students. One of my favorite things, we've had Zoom groups and Google Hangout groups where if you're a high schooler, you can log in and there's a discussion, there's a scripture verse to talk about. That's been great. And so again, we've tried lots of different things because we just don't want to disconnect from our students.
Well, and I think especially for students, the idea of having community is so important, right? Because they want to be with friends, they want to be out. And I know for you parents of junior high and high school students, you're probably having a hard time getting them, to stay inside, right, and not want to hang out with their friends all the time. But that's what we're trying to do is help, if I'm hearing you correctly, help provide that community experience as well. And then I think for parents, I love that you brought this up, is that as a parent myself, I'm always looking for what are some ways that I can connect with my kid? How can I spiritually lead them? And how do I know that I've got a community of other parents and spiritual resources, which is really kind of what we're doing as a church.
Yeah, and in fact, we're really working on some new things that we hope to roll out this fall that even take it to a new level where parents can engage kids. So we're excited to roll that out soon.
That's great, and I think we just posted it in the comments as well. If you have a high school student or a high school student, you could sign up for a small group there. There's also discussions, questions, and everything like that. And that was one thing. We put out a survey to everybody, our second survey, and we really asked anybody with a student, what have you been participating in? And it turned out a lot of parents just didn't know it was available. So if you know somebody that's a parent of a high school or a junior high student, let them know about these things that we've got going on, because we really want to help serve your family as a church. Okay, enough of what we've been doing already. I think everybody wants to know what's going to happen on July 11th and 12th. So when we come back to live services at our physical locations on July 11th and 12th, does that include Kids Planet?
Absolutely. Kids Planet as well as Remix. And we're really going to have 4 groups, so to speak. We'll have the adult service, as you guys know, and we're making some changes there that we can talk about in a second. We'll have Kids Planet, and we're going to try to open every room we can, because the more rooms we open, the more accessible we are to smaller groups of kids, which we can talk about that in a second. Remix will be open, and then we're offering something new at almost all of our locations, I believe, a family venue.
Okay.
Where if you're ready to come back, but you're not quite ready to check your kids into Kids Planet quite yet. You guys can have essentially a private table in a larger room where you can view the service together as a family.
Okay, so if you're like paying attention here, you probably just got overrun with a lot of different things, and it's there's a lot of questions to ask there. So let me ask this question to you. We know we talk a lot as a church about making sure that we can provide safe and excellent experiences for kids, for adults, for everybody. What have we been doing already in Kids Planet to keep things, as sanitary and as clean as possible, even before COVID?
Yeah, before COVID, we got in a habit of after services, we would do a cleanup. We would at least wipe down, do those kind of things. We would check restrooms in the rooms where kids are old enough to go in. And just general hygiene. We would enforce a well child policy where if a parent was coming with a child, but we could tell that they were sick or they'd had a temperature or something like that. So we did some basic screening before they came in, and then we did some basic sanitizing between services in general. And we've had a good track record with that.
And especially during cold and flu season.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you have kids, you just know. And so what I've appreciated is that as a church, we really do a good job of already keeping our environments as clean as possible. But now that we've kind of switched into this post-COVID world, what are our Kids Planet services going to look like when we actually come back and resume services live?
Well, let me answer that by just kind of sharing what we've learned, if I can do that.
Okay, but you better address the question.
Okay, I'll address the question because the question's a part of the bigger question. Okay. So we did a lot of investigation and a lot of research to try to figure out what does the CDC recommend? What do churches that have already opened, what have they been learning? We talked to churches across the country. We talked to even churches in the local area. And we compiled all this data, and we learned there's really kind of a three-prong approach to maintain safety while continuing to have great programming. Okay, so the first one is distancing. Distancing was a big deal, as you know. And what we did is we've gone in and we've set up every single environment at every single campus where no child and no student is going to be closer than 6 feet to the next one. So obviously that's a distance issue. We're doing that in the adult service as well, with every other row, and asking families to sit not just every other row, but also 2 to 3 seats away from the next family that's there. So we're enforcing that campus-wide in all of our spaces.
In all of our environments.
So that's one.
Okay.
Second one is we had discussed the importance of CDC cleaning practices, and it's a lot more in-depth than even what we did before, which was significant. We're using hospital-grade cleaners. We're able to go in, and there's a certain protocol where you disinfect, you have rags, you throw them away once you're done. Any surface that's been touched, you limit the amount of paper and things that you hand out. You don't serve snacks and some of those things to all the kids like you used to do. And so the whole sanitation process has gone up exponentially, so that any surface that's touched is sanitized before a single other person has to or gets to touch it. And then the third prong of that is what we call the touchless experience. So from the parking lot into the campus, the goal is that you never, we're going to try to limit the need to touch anything the entire time you're here. So our check-in experience is going to be touchless, where you'll just walk up and we'll have check-in assistants. And they are the ones who work the computer and get your information. And then they hit the print button and the tag comes out, and moms and dads will pull that tag off and never have to touch anything. All the doors will be propped open, so when they walk on campus, you don't have to touch any doors. I mean, it's literally you come in and you're 6 foot away from people. You're not touching anything. Everything's sanitized before and after every single service. It's I think going to be a great experience.
So what I love, what I'm hearing here, is that we're not doing this on our own in isolation. We're finding other experts, whether it's other churches, to see what are best practices for churches that are already open and have been doing this for a while, as well as we're going after kind of the medical science experts on saying what should we be doing. So this isn't like we're just making this up.
No.
We're following these protocols. Great, so let's go through those. I know we talked about them, but the first step was safe distances. I think you covered it pretty well. And in as much as possible, we're going to try and keep everybody about 6 feet apart, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Great. And then we know, we're doing an amazing job of cleaning, but we're going to increase that too. I think you mentioned all the wiping down the hard surfaces. But is there anything in the rooms, I think we were talking earlier, we might be getting rid of some things that are hard to clean
Yeah,
too?
and especially in preschool, I know that's a big question we get a lot with parents is how do you deal with preschool kids? A couple things. One is most preschool kids will have their own table when they come in the room. We have opened every room knowing that we're only at 25% capacity because opening every room allows us to only have a handful of kids per room.
Yep.
They each get their own table. Table will be sanitized. They can come in, sit at their table, stay at that table the entire service, and then leave. So that's really a great benefit for them to be able to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And so you talked about like other measures of everything all being packed together.
Yeah,
for
in
kids,
addition,
too.
we'll be taking in advance, we have actually done this. We've gone into rooms and we've taken anything that is not entirely easy to sanitize. So anything that's foam, anything that, stuffed animals or things like that, all that stuff has been locked away. And so the room is going to be very limited with what kids can access for that reason.
Yeah.
Because during this season, we just don't want things that might even tempt them to walk over and play. So some of our little jungle gym playthings in some of the rooms, those will be gone.
Yep.
Foam mats on the floor that are a little bit hard to clean, those are gone. So again, it's a very sterile environment, and knowing that, we had to put a lot more energy on what can we do.
Right.
So we've really made some huge changes with our programming to make the hour fun, keep kids moving in place, use a lot of video elements and things like that so that kids can have more fun than ever before, but not have to touch each other and not have to leave their little space.
Yeah, and we're talking about a lot of these different things, and I like that you brought it up. It's like for this season. So I think to reiterate, because I'm seeing a couple of questions in here and comments, this is something that's it doesn't have to be forever. This is really as long as we really need to, as long as the scientific community says that this is something that we need to do, especially also with local governments, whether it's here or in Belize, what the different regulations that they're giving
and
us.
we want to
as well.
respect that completely.
So we're going to respect all of those things. So one of the questions is, how are you going to keep toddlers 6 feet apart? If I'm hearing you correctly, we're setting all this stuff up to do the best we can, obviously understanding that children are children.
Sure.
Right? So do you have any comments
well,
to that?
the key for us is if we can have them at a table and we can have enough that engages them at the table and even activities that are prepackaged and sterile at the tables for them to do, we'll have volunteers in the room. Any volunteer that contacts a kid physically will have to do so with gloves, and once that contact's made, they'll throw those gloves away. So we'll probably do some redirecting of kids in rooms.
Sure.
Obviously, that's going to be something that we'll have to do. But again, we're trying to limit anything that could be an issue.
Gotcha. And so then the final one, you talked about touchless experience, which there is a lot of that already that we've covered as far as in the room, things not being touched as much. But how does that affect check-in, drop-off, and pickup?
Yeah, and basically that's going to be the same. If you've got a preschool child, you're going to get in line in the hall, you're going to keep your distance. And again, we're believing that the volume to start with is going to be a lot lower. So we shouldn't have halls that are crowded like they used to be at some of our prime service times. But we'll have parents line up. We'll call the child to come up and open the door for them.
Right.
And they don't have to touch anything. They'll be able to walk out with their child, and that'll be it. For upstairs at some of our locations like Riverside in elementary, we still allow, we've spaced it so that you can walk in the room and you're not violating the six foot space. And you'll just walk into the room, find your child, and we have a dedicated entrance and a dedicated exit. So that'll be easy. But really nothing's changing there.
Sure. And I think one of the things to keep in mind, especially for parents, because we're seeing more comments and questions and everything like that, is like, I think everyone is figuring this out together.
Sure.
Right? And just know that the heart, when I'm hearing from Chris and from Todd and when he's talking, the heart here is we want to keep people as safe as possible, but still providing an excellent experience. So one thing that we know we can count on from all of you is grace along the process.
Yes.
Right? Just as grace has been extended to you, we want to extend back. We want to hear, we're doing surveys, we want to hear how things are going because we want to keep people as safe as possible, but while still enjoying the experience that they have come to know and love from Sagebrush. One other question too is about, like, we've had the wellness policy in place, which you've talked about, but we're also going to be talking through some of these like self-check questions
Yes.
that kids and adults should be asking themselves before deciding whether or not they're going to come to a physical location.
Yeah, and most places have a pretty standard kind of a 5-part expectation.
Okay.
That's what you would consider self-screening.
Yep.
So self-screen as a family, self-screen as an individual. Number one, if you've got a fever that's 101 or higher.
Yep.
Number two, if you've got a shortness of breath, you're coughing, you have symptoms, you don't feel good. Number three, if you've traveled outside the U.S. In the previous 2 weeks. Number four, if you've got a weakened immune system or you're high risk or something like that. And then number five is if you've been around anybody who has tested positive for COVID, you probably want to give a self-quarantine for a little bit.
Yeah. So those are good things just to think about for your family in general. We'll have signage out to remind you of those things. But what I think is great, and I'm hearing this too, is we're going to continue to provide our online experiences for anyone who maybe doesn't feel comfortable coming to a physical location. Maybe you have some sort of pre-existing condition or, whatever the case may be, you're feeling under the weather or you're serving someone who is in a vulnerable population. We want you to know that that's perfectly fine. You're not going to miss out on the church experience as well. And then, as you said too, maybe if you're not comfortable checking your kids into Kids Planet, you've got a toddler, you're worried about them getting too close, you've got an infant, or maybe they're a little immunocompromised and you want to bring them on. We have these, you mentioned earlier, these family overflow rooms. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So this is going to be a live broadcast of the service that everybody's seeing in the worship center. So you'll get to see it. You just won't be in the auditorium, and it'll give you a chance because we're still asking for families with kids 5 and down not to come into the adult worship center.
Sure.
Part of that is a policy with just noise, and part of that is we believe they'll have a better experience in Kids Planet. Part of that right now is just a safety issue for us as well. So we thought, okay, we need an extra space for parents who may not be ready to drop their kids off. And so the family venues at our campuses are essentially that. And what you do is you walk into a room, again, the door is already open and propped open. You pick a table, and we have tables set out. They'll be disinfected, chairs that'll be cleaned. And then, you guys take that table over, and that becomes kind of your seated viewing area for the adult service. We would encourage parents with little kids probably to bring a tablet or a phone or something that would help keep them occupied. Of course, they can always watch the Kids Planet programming on their tablet while mom and dad are watching the service. But an hour with them might be a little bit hard to keep them from the wiggle. So, but families
bring
are welcome.
what you need.
Bring what you need.
Yeah,
and you're welcome if you want to bring a snack. That's fine too. Again, we're going to completely sanitize your table. Once you come, sit, do the service, and then walk away. And so we'll be cleaning those in between services just like we do all the kids' rooms.
So one other thing that is coming up quite frequently here, can you talk a little bit about what is going to happen with our team members and our volunteers? What are the measures that they're going to be taking? We talked through some self-checks, other protective equipment. Can you mention that?
Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing that up because the reality is you can have a clean environment, but if people coming in haven't gone through any protocols, then you're not really gaining a whole lot.
Right.
So here's what we're doing. Every campus, all the staff and all the team members who are volunteers have to come into a particular area. And what we do is we have a health checkup that we're going to do with them when they walk in, where we're going to go through a quick assessment. And if they pass that, then they're going to get an on-the-spot immediate temperature check. They have to pass that as well. Once that's done, we're going to ensure that they all have a mask because they're going to have to wear a mask the entire time they're serving, whether that's staff or volunteers. And once they do that, we have a thumbs up, kind of thumbs up stamp we're going to put on their hand. And that way we can also inspect when they're walking around the campus that everybody's gone through this and we're 100% sure we've done our due diligence. Volunteers who are going to be working in the classrooms with kids, again, they've gone through that, but we'll also supply them with gloves and sanitizer and things like that. And we're going to do practice services before opening weekend and practice some scenarios, practice how to use the updated curriculum that we're doing so that everybody feels comfortable when the first batch of kids come.
So a couple of questions that have come in on that in particular. If you're a volunteer team member, should you plan on showing up earlier than normal? And also, if you're going to check your kids in, should you plan on showing up earlier? Do we anticipate that this process is going to take a long time? What are you thinking?
So, most of our campuses have one service on one day for right now. And so the benefit for that is you can come a little bit early and you're not encroaching on the previous service. and you can stay a little later if you needed to for, again, the deep cleaning. So that won't be a problem. Our thought is this: if we can do kind of the regular schedule that we do, where you come when you regularly do, you drop off your child and then you do the check-in and you do those things like you normally do if you're a team member, that would be great. We want people to follow the system that they're kind of used to. And what we're doing is we're proactively going to be communicating with team members in the next 2 weeks. Where we talk about things. I'm going to be recording a video with Justin to send out to families to talk about, hey, what's different for you if you volunteer, and what do you need to know in advance? And here are the things we're going to be asking you to do. We will supply masks for those who need them, and so we'll let them know in advance. So if you're a team member, just know we'll be in contact with you, and we're going to give you the entire plan, and that way when you show up, it's going to be a little bit more hopefully familiar for you.
And I would say the same thing is true for parents. There should be an email hitting your inbox either today or tomorrow that will go over some things, because there's things we haven't even talked about, like promotion into the next grade. That's got to happen.
Kids are already promoted.
So so if you had a third grader, they're now a fourth grader and things like that. So there will be more communication this week as well as next week. So there are going to be some questions that are still going to be lingering even after this conversation. And again, as we get a chance, like you said, to go through some of these practice things and try them out, there might be little changes here and there.
Sure, absolutely.
Is that right? Okay, great, awesome. Do you want to talk a little bit about what it's going to look like for our 6th through 12th grade students?
Yeah, and because I have two of them, I can speak to this both as a parent and as one of the guys on staff here. Remix is going to be, we have already gone into our environments. We've staged chairs so that they're 6 feet apart. We have taken away initially any of the video games, things like that, because we just don't want a temptation. And so, again, it's going to feel a little sterile. But once they get into service, we have a lot of fun videos and video-driven content. We have done some research to figure out games and things that we can play that don't kind of encroach on that 6-foot space. And other than that, I mean, it's going to be similar to a regular weekend service, just a few extra measures for safety.
Yeah, and I think that was something else that, as we get more questions and things like that, there's campus-specific questions. Some people concerned with, like, for instance, the Northeast Heights is kind of got a small area moving through there. I don't know if you want to address anything like that, or just basically we're going to be sending out a campus-specific email next week or the following week.
Yes, and Todd's got I believe he's going to be shooting a video that kind of gives an initial walkthrough so you can see it before you come and kind of see the ebb and the flow and some of the things that we're going to be doing. So here's what we're going to make a commitment to you, though. Our commitment is this: when you come on campus, we're going to make it painfully clear what the expectation is. So you don't have to feel like you're going to wander around and be confused in what you can do, what you can't do. We're going to have team members ready to go to explain things. We're going to have tons of signage. In fact, we actually walked the facility early today and triple checked our signage to make sure that we're over communicating to you so that you don't come with this sense of, man, what am I walking into?
Another question too, specific to infants. Is there anything that we're taking in precaution as far as, there's a lot of physical touching when it comes to infants, babies, things like that. Do you have any
So we'll have sanitized aprons that our folks will wear. They'll have gloves, and then they're going to ask parent by parent, what do you feel comfortable with? We have, it's really cool. We found these hospital grade antimicrobial covers that go over swings.
All words that you never thought you'd have to use.
I know.
Okay,
but it's great. I feel more intelligent now.
Right, hospital grade antimicrobial. Use that with words with friends.
Yes,
that'll be good.
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually have these protective covers that go on the swings and different things, so that even putting a kid in there, they'll have their own cover, and the covers go when they're done after the service. So we're taking every step we know how. But here's what we're going to do. If you come and you have an infant under 2, we're going to ask you what you feel comfortable with. So that's really the key. This is us to say, if you want us to feed for the hour and you've got a bottle, we'll have gloves and we'll have sanitation and we'll have a mask, and child-friendly masks, by the way, so they're not scary. But we want to do whatever parents feel comfortable doing. Some parents may say, I'm okay dropping my kid off. Please don't feed them. Try to avoid touch with them. No problem. We can accommodate that. We may have some who say, hey, we're not worried about it so much. here's the formula, and have fun, and we're going to note case by case with kids.
Gotcha. Okay, so really it'll be up to the parent. You can decide if you've got an infant, somebody under 2, you could for sure let our team members know. And again, to mention again, we will have those family overflow areas too. So if that's something that you're more comfortable with, great. All of this to say, again, if you are not comfortable yet at this point coming back to a physical location, or if you're not comfortable at this point with your kids being in Kids Planet or Remix, that is okay.
Absolutely.
We are going to continue to serve you online. That would be the best way and the most reliable way that you could continue to receive content. If you're on Facebook Live, you could do that as well. And so that way we'll have people interacting in the comments like you've seen in the past. But it's okay. If any of this stuff is going, man, this is overwhelming, man, this is scary, I don't know what to do. Like, we don't want you to have fear. We don't want you to get overwhelmed. We just want you to know that we plan on serving you at every level of comfortability.
Yes.
Whether that's, hey, take the kids, they've been I think the Poe family, Andrew, go ahead and let me know. Like, you're just throw them into Kids Planet and Remix, whatever it takes. Am I right?
You're right. Do you want to throw them under the bus, but it's true.
Right. Do you want to speak to anybody who might be afraid and worried that there's pressure to come, or that they're any less Christian if they don't show up? Do you want to just let us know?
No. Here's the thing. These are times none of us anticipated, and all of us, especially as parents, man, we want to do right by our kids. And we don't ever want to be a community of shaming. In fact, we're opening a lot later than a lot of the churches around the community for a reason, because we really wanted to prayerfully take time to assess, learn, find out what we can prepare for, so that when we do open, we're giving an experience that's the best we can offer. Right. One of our values is excellence honors God and inspires others. And we feel like even in our opening, we had a staff meeting and we said, we can be so focused on when we open without focusing on how we open. And we want to open as excellently as we can. Yep. And so there's no shame in it. I've got people in my family who are like, extended family who are like, yeah, we're ready to come right now. I have other people who are like, we're gonna probably wait a few weeks and just kind of let the dust settle. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And again, we are the church. Right. Something awesome about the church coming together to corporately worship in a place like this, but the church is never closed. Right, exactly. And I think, to reiterate what you're saying too, and I don't want to get into any of the politics of this, but let's not make this a divisive issue where it's like the politicalization of what type of Christian you are, whether you're an in-person or an online. Like, that just doesn't do anybody any good. And so just know that our heart, like Chris said, our heart is to serve you and your family through this process. And there's questions coming in. There's more questions that we're not going to be able to answer in this short amount of time. Just know this, you're going to get an email as a parent. If you're not signed up for our email list, make sure, I think we're going to put that in the link there, sagebrush.church/updates. You can make sure that your information is attached. Check your inbox where we will be sending out more. You could follow us on all the social medias where we can put that out there. And then on our website, we're going to be posting updates over the next 3 weeks. And I think with what we talked about before, some of these things are going to change as the time goes on, as we start to get more, either relaxed regulations from the government and back and forth. So some of these issues that we're talking about now might be different in a month. Who knows, right? Yeah, right. And we're going week by week. We really are. We want to learn everything we can on opening weekend, make all the adjustments. We kind of have a standing staff meeting set for right after the 11th and 12th weekend, so that we can address and make changes, because we just want to stay in step with not only what we're learning, but with God's leading. Exactly, and being very good and being discerning and wisdom and all of that. So what I would say for all of you too is please continue to pray for Chris and his team, because they are working hard along with the executive team and the elders on figuring out what is it that God would have us do here to be as faithful to him as possible, as well as being, because God wants us to be safe. And so if you pray for them, pray for the volunteers, that they could help lead us and guide us and direct us in the right direction here. And then again, if you have additional questions, you can enter them here, but make sure you pay attention to your email as we're coming up and all of social media. Chris, is there anything else that you want to tell them before we go? We've missed you. Whenever I travel and I'm away from my family, I can get on Facebook or I can get on FaceTime, and I can see them, but it's not the same as seeing them in person. And we have missed you guys. A couple weeks ago, we had one of our staff guys brought his family to eat dinner lunch that is, and they all came and sat at a table right below where my office is. And I was in the middle of working, and I was kind of blue that day, just kind of missing the old rhythm of things. And I heard all the kids down below laughing, and I just got choked up because I missed that so much. And so, we're no pressure, but we miss you, and we can't wait to see all of our families again. And even if we can't give you a hug yet, we certainly will be smiling behind the mask.
That's right. So mark your calendars, July 11th and 12th. Keep that date. There's going to be more information coming for you. Enter in more questions if you have them, and we will be answering them as we go. Can everybody please in the comments just say thank you to Chris? If there is a Kids Planet or a Remix staff member or team member that your kids just love and you miss, let them know in the comments. Say who you miss and who you can't wait to see again. That way we can let them know how much you appreciate them and the work that they're doing to help really keep you connected and stay connected here at the church. So on behalf of Chris, I'm Eric. Thanks for sticking with us, and we will see you guys later.